Greetings, Commanders. I just wanted to make a video today about the upcoming Colonisation update to Elikte Dangerous. If you're not a regular player, or maybe you're just not aware, Frontier recently announced that they're going to be bringing in player-driven colonisation of at least part of the galaxy. Whereby players or groups of players will be able to buy a beacon that you can deploy in an uninhabited system. This initially is only going to apply to the main bubble, so the bubble of inhabited systems around Sol, around the Earth system. And we've got enough information now to know a little bit about how it's going to work, which I'll outline here very briefly. I'd recommend that you have a look at the Frontier Unlocked. I think that they've covered it in 2 of the Unlocked episodes now, the most recent 2 as of today, which is the 2nd of January 2025. So they've given us a pretty good outline of how it's going to work. So as I say, it's going to apply to the main bubble area first. There is going to be a beta test so that they can tweak values and things. So the way it's going to work is that you'll be able to go to a human inhabited system, so in other words a system with a starport or an orbital outpost. I'm imagining that an outpost that has a concourse basically, and you'll be able to buy from the faction there effectively a beacon. Now they haven't said exactly how this is going to work, but I would imagine it's going to probably, in terms of the mechanics of the game, it's probably going to be like, in a lot of ways, any other mission you would accept from a faction, I would imagine. So you can buy this beacon. They have said that buying this beacon is going to be expensive, but it's not going to be the same sort of value as buying a fleet carrier or anything like that. But here's the intriguing detail at the moment, which I'll come back to later on. This beacon will enable you to colonise a star system within 10 light years. And that's very important. I'll come back to that. So you'll be able to buy this beacon, you'll be able to travel to this system, you'll be able to deploy that beacon. You have to apparently deploy it within 24 hours, it's time limited to stop people hoarding these things. And then what will happen is that a very large ship, a bit similar to a fleet carrier, will turn up in that system, and you will have to begin delivering materials to that ship in order to start building the first starport. And what they've said, the details are obviously a little bit sketchy at the moment, but they've said that there will be a sort of choice of slots, as I understand it, there'll be a choice of orbits effectively in that system where you can deploy this starport. One thing they haven't said is whether you will be able to deploy a starport where there are no planets. My guess is that you probably will, because they've talked about players being able to daisy chain these colonised systems all the way out to distant stars, 10 light years at a time. So and I just wanted to say, really, as I say, that the details are very basic that we have at the moment. But basically, any player that buys this beacon, deploys it, and successfully installs that first starport, and I believe they said that you will have a period of 4 weeks to deliver materials, you will be what is known as a system architect for that system. And that system, you won't have any other control over that system other than you'll be able to place additional starports, ground bases. You will be known as a system architect, and that will reside with you, and if you do it carefully, you'll be able to create trade routes and things like that. So what are my thoughts on this? Well, first of all, I've got to say that I am very, very enthusiastic about it, and I'm extremely pleased that this feature's coming. I've been hoping and praying and wishing for this feature for many years. I mean, if you don't know, my name's Commander Roraima in the game. I've been playing since launch day. I wasn't part of the Kickstarter, but this is something that ever since we got Horizons, we were able to land on planets. This is something that I've really been looking forward to. In fact, a few years ago there was a Frontier event in Cambridge. I think it was a Halloween party that they organised, and I do remember asking one of the developers or community manager at that time, it wasn't Arthur, the current community manager, I think it was one or two developers before then, and I did ask directly, are we ever going to be able to build bases on planets? And I think he said to me, well, possibly. So what I wanted to talk about, a few things here, is it going to be fair, and when's it coming, and most importantly, which a lot of people have talked about, is do I think that 10 light year distance is going to change? Is it going to be feasible? Because that's quite a critical thing. So my thoughts on this, firstly, as I said, is it going to be fair? This is something I've wondered about really ever since they announced this, and I guess my initial hope, which I've come to change my mind on, my initial hope was that it would only be commanders who had first discovered a particular planet, or maybe even a whole system, that would have the right to colonize things. But Frontier, because I thought that would reward exploration, but Frontier have kind of moved away from that slightly, and I think for good reason, because if you think about it, in order to, I mean, I know that the first discovery, getting your name on the system map, was something that they added, not straight away in the game. It was a little bit after the game debut that they added that. So, but I thought that they might go that way as a reward to explorers. But if you really think about it, certainly in my case, it was a while at the beginning of the game before I even started to do exploration, and there's not going to be many commanders who've got a first name discovery on probably anything reasonably close to the bubble, where the colonisation is going to start initially. So actually, I'm glad that they don't seem to be going that way. Any commander will be able to go to one of these factions. It's going to need to be, as I say, within 10 light years of an uninhabited system. Now, I'm assuming that doesn't just mean the edge of the bubble. I'm assuming it means that you might be able to colonise, say, a system that is uninhabited that's within the bubble. But I'm kind of glad they've gone that way, because I think that opens it up to everybody. So, which is something I'll come back to later on. So, but one of my concerns is, and I think anybody who's played the game for a long period of time will probably be able to sympathise with this, that I do remember, for example, that when the ability to map planets came in, I was very keen on this idea as well, and I'd actually, before they did the update, I'd actually docked near a planet that was uninhabited that I wanted to map. But I think you know what it's like when they update the game, especially a big update. You're not quite sure when it's going to go live. Quite often there's delays. So, sometimes, if you book, for example, if you took time off, which some people do, to be first in there, things can change. If you take time off from work, or you block out some time to be online when it goes live. And then secondly, by the time you've actually downloaded the game, it's gone live, quite often when you try and log in when there's a big update, you can't log in. And I remember when the mapping of planets came in, as I say, I was in position, there was a planet I had my eye on that I really wanted to get my name on, but by the time I'd managed to install the update and log in without it crashing, it seemed to me that just about every planet had already been mapped within the bubble. So it was pretty amazing, really, how quickly that happened. So I think it is going to be difficult, and I think that it's going to be a bit of a free-for-all, to be honest. So, secondly, when is this update coming? Well, Frontier have said there's going to be a beta test, which I think is really good, because obviously that's going to give us an idea before it goes live. And again, they have said they're going to tweak these, they may tweak some of these ideas or some of these values, but it's going to give us an idea of what materials we need to build the starship, how much of the material, how the mechanics work, and that kind of thing. So I think that will put everybody on a fairly even footing. I think the beta is going to be open to everybody. You don't have to be a Kickstarter or a Life Pass holder or anything like that. It's going to be open to everybody, from what I understand. So everybody's going to know the score. So the third thing I wanted to mention in this video is the 10 light year limit, which I've already touched on. Do I think that that's going to change either between now and when the beta comes out, or after the beta? And I think it is almost inevitable that is going to change. I don't think it's going to change to hundreds of light years, and I think there's a very good reason for that, because if you've got some system fairly near the bubble that you first discovered, you wouldn't, if it's set to hundreds of light years, it's going to be gone in an instant. You're not going to be able to keep an eye on it. But I think it needs to be more than 10 light years, and I'll tell you why, because I've tried this myself. If you go to the fringes of the bubble and you try to find a system with a starport in or an orbital station, where in theory when this update comes in you would be able to buy one of these beacons, one of these colonisation beacons, when you start actually looking through the number of systems that are within 10 light years of these fringe inhabited systems, you will find that it's difficult to find one that is worth colonising, shall we say, unless it's just to maybe daisy chain out somewhere else. Because obviously if you're going to spend a lot of time and credits and resources, especially if you're a solo player, you might not have the resources to colonise more than one system. You might just want to have a system to call your own, as it were. But in that case, you're going to want something interesting about that system. As a minimum, you're going to want planets that you can land on and where you can build, ground bases. So when you actually start looking through the number of systems within a 10 light year radius, you actually find they're very thin on the ground. So that is one of my big concerns at the moment. And again, I don't want to seem to be overly negative. I think this update is going to be fantastic, and I think that this 10 light year limit almost certainly will change, in my opinion. I think for me it would make sense to make it somewhere around the kind of range you get when your faction expands into another system, which I understand is between 25 and 40 light years. That would seem to be a much more reasonable limit to me. So my guess is that that's probably where we'll end up. Because I think otherwise, certainly initially, it's going to be very hard for commanders to find a system that's worth colonising, especially when it first goes live. Might get a little bit better, I suppose, as time goes on, but who knows. And my other thought is that when this does go live, I think the other possibility is that it depends, I guess, how many people have the credits and the time and the inclination to do colonisation. It's probably not going to appeal to everybody. It's probably going to, unless you're in a large group of players, it's probably going to be limited to people who have played the game for quite a while and have a lot of resources to do that kind of thing. But I think it is going to be a bit of a free-for-all. And also, another thing that's occurred to me is if everybody is suddenly trying to buy very, very large amounts of, for example, the first thing that comes to mind would be metals. If you're building a starport, you're going to need a lot of metals. I think it's going to be potentially quite difficult to find those materials, especially near perhaps the fringes of the bubble. If everybody's trying to do the same thing, there's maybe not that many places where you can buy the metals nearby. It's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But again, I don't want to be overly negative about it, because I think this is going to be a fantastic addition to the game. I've been thinking for many years that one thing Elite really needs is for it to be more player driven, more community driven, and I think that this will really allow players to shape the galaxy, do what they want to do, create some really interesting locations for bases, and colonize really interesting systems. But I think it's perhaps not going to be that easy. I think it's definitely going to be a scramble. But if you think about it, that is what colonisation is as well. It is a bit of a scramble for space and resources. I'm going to say land in inverted commas. If you think about colonisation in history, pioneers have pushed out, and it's been a scramble to get to the best places and get established. So in a way that's kind of realistic, but I think that it's going to be very interesting to see how that pans out. The other thing I forgot to mention is when is this going to happen? Well, Frontier did say that it would be before the end of 2024. In fact, Arthur, I think he's the community manager, or could just be the lead developer, I can't remember his job title, he was adamant that it would happen before the end of 2024 in a tweet that I saw. But he did have to say himself that because they had to spend quite a while tweaking Power Play 2.0, it's had to slip back into the new year. But I think it's probably fair to say that if they were close to doing the beta test at the end of 2024, then it must be very, very near ready to go. So I would expect to see the beta test perhaps later on this month, later on in January 2025. I would have thought the latest would be early February 2025, and then I don't know obviously how long they're planning to have the beta for, maybe a couple of weeks I would guess, and then I would suspect it would go live a little bit after that. So I think it's going to be coming very soon. I think it's going to be very exciting. I think this is going to bring a lot of people back to the game, and to be honest, to be blunt, it's been a bit of a rocky time for Frontier. Just probably a year ago we were all wondering, or maybe a bit longer than a year, we were all wondering if Elite was going to be shut down, if it was the end of the game. Thankfully that hasn't happened. Frontier seem to have doubled down on it, but let's be honest, they need to make money from the game if they're going to continue to support it, and I think like customizable bases, with things like maybe paint jobs or making your base a little bit unique perhaps, for arcs, is going to help them to do that. So I think there's a lot of positive things coming, and I think it's going to be very exciting. So as I say, don't take this video as me being negative, because this is something I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. So let's see how it goes. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. And by the way, I've had this little side channel going for quite a while now on YouTube. I'm aiming to make more Elite Dangerous videos because, as I say, it is a game I've been playing for the full 10 years, and it is a game I really enjoy. I don't necessarily play it all the time. I dip in and out of it sometimes, but I really enjoy it. So I'm going to try and make more of these videos. So if you like this sort of video, please subscribe to this channel. In fact, it's currently called Rowan's Elite Dangerous Videos. I think I might rename it to Commander Roraima or something like that. But you know, by all means, please subscribe, and you know, if you want to add me as a friend in the game, always happy to wing up and help people out, especially new players. So anyway, I hope this has been helpful, and I'll probably make another video certainly when the beta goes live, if not before. So until then, Commander Roraima signing out, and 07, and wish you happy flying, and also a happy new year.